I am joined by the fantastic Michelle Owen, presenter and reporter for Sky Sports. Michelle, welcome. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
So we've got a lot to dive into, both the playing side, the broadcasting side. I think we'll start off with playing. And how did you get into playing?
Oh, I started playing when I was really young, probably maybe even 3 or 4. And I started collecting like football stickers. No one in my family was into football at all. So I had these stickers and I used to stick them on my little desk. And then I just got really interested in football. I think I saw the boys playing in school and no girls were playing. And so I said to my parents, I want to go along to the local team. So they let me go along and it was so muddy, it was freezing cold. And I was playing in trainers and they were like, well, we won't buy you boots yet because you might not like it. I went twice and I loved it. And they're like, okay, you can have a pair of boots. So I've been playing, I played since I was 4. I played with the boys until I was about 11 or 12. And then as the rules were then, you had to switch and go and play for a girls' team, but there wasn't one by me, which was a bit tricky. So I eventually joined Shrewsbury Town. So I was playing for them and playing for a local team, which was great. And I stopped when I was about 15, really, because I didn't really know anyone playing locally. It was a long way to travel from where I was. And, I was a teenager, boys and things like that. And then I started playing again when I went to university, when I was about 18. And loved that. And university football was really, really good standard. I ended up playing for Keynsham, which was the Women's Premier League. And then I played for Cardiff, and then I just played locally. I stopped playing just before I got pregnant with our little boy. And then pre-COVID, I went back to doing five-a-side, which was really fun. So I maybe dabbled with a bit of that when we're allowed again.
Got to love five-a-side. That's really interesting, actually, because I feel like mine's quite contrasting to that. I didn't actually play when I was around 3. I didn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I didn't play football till I was a bit older. I suppose you never really saw girls playing. And then at school a bit, like you, I tried to join in with the boys. And I collected, not stickers, but like the match attack cards.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I got a couple of brothers and we were just mad about those cards, like swapping, really into it. And I used to play with them in the garden, go down to the park with my dad. And then I think I was about 13, 12.
Oh, wow. You're quite late. You're very good for someone that started so late, because we played together in a charity game, didn't we? And it was Sky Sports News versus like a charity 11. And I rocked up and you were there. I was like, oh my God, hi. And we were the only 2 girls. And I was like, oh, this is great. So yeah, you came to it quite late. So you're very good for someone that started so late.
Thanks. It is strange that I didn't actually start so young. I think when I did start, though, I got so into it that I would be at every single day and you couldn't get me out of there. Sometimes I used to rock up with a ball and just look for people to play with. And sometimes I'd find like a group of Brazilian guys playing and I'd sort of wait for them to ask, and then if they didn't, I'd be like, play. And
that's it, isn't it? It's so hard, like when you're a girl, to go up to boys. Like I remember that in school. Like they never wanted me to play. And I think it's the same for boys as well, where it's like, oh, you got to ask them, it's their ball. And you'd be like, oh, like you feel like so shy, and you'd be like, oh, can I play please? And they'd let you play. And when they let you play, it was amazing. But I don't know, did they pass you? Because when I was really little, and as I went through school, until like every break time I used to play football with the boys until I was probably 13, 14. But they often wouldn't pass and things, and they'd be a bit funny. So did they include you in the park?
Sometimes I feel like you were just waiting to get the ball once, really do something with it, make something of it, and then be like, okay, she can play.
Yes.
And start passing to you. But it was always that initial stage where you're like, not sure I'm going to pass to her. And then you're like, okay, just pass me the ball, see what I can do, then judge. And it's funny because even as I got a bit older, I remember I asked to join in with some guys who are around my age, and they didn't want me to, I think. And I just said, okay, why don't you let me play for about 10 minutes, see what I'm about, and then you decide. And they said, oh, okay. And then I trained with them all summer. And I think it is just some guys are just not used to training with girls.
Yeah.
And it's a shock. And then once they actually, once you start playing with them, it's like, oh, this is fine. And it's just getting over that. But I mean, I remember, I think I was about 12 and I just went to these girls' football sessions. And there was only about 3 girls that used to turn up. There just wasn't enough of us. And they said, we're thinking of doing a tournament abroad. So I went to America, Detroit, and I played in a small tournament. and I loved it. And I think when I got home from that, I was like, oh, I need to play. This is so much fun. And then gradually I just got really into it. And then I tried out for an academy at one point, and the standard was really high because, like you said, everyone had come from centre of excellence, and I hadn't really. And I think the coach just saw something in me, gave me a chance, and that was just a game changer because my coach was someone called Tracy Kevins, who was at the time, she was Barnet's manager, and she was incredible for me. And yeah, sometimes it just takes someone seeing sort of something in you to give you that chance. But it is different that everyone has had their own path, really.
I remember I wanted to play when I was like 17. I didn't know like where to go because there wasn't really any women's teams by me. And I was like, oh, I'm only like 8 months out from uni when I go to uni. And then I did find like a local women's five-a-side, which was really good. And then someone I used to work with, the men, they were playing on the court next to us. They're like, oh, do you fancy a game? Do you want to come over and play? And so I used to play like for 3 hours on a Monday night. And then I started getting back into it. So it's funny how you came to it late and then I sort of had that break and then came back to it. But I think it's interesting how many women drop off in their teens playing football. And it's the same for men. I think, a lot of men drop off. There's distractions when you're a teenager. And I think the people that really want it and are the best do make it. But you sort of have those sliding doors moments, don't you? Like, what if I carried on playing football and gone for a scholarship? I was very fortunate sort of in my 20s to play with the girls who now play for Wales. I know a lot of them and they're lovely girls. We played for Cardiff together. Just playing with those sort of players, realising, well, that's the standard.
I got offered a scholarship to America when I was at academy. So my academy, you study alongside playing, which for me was one of the best things I've ever done because, you go to college every day, you study. Well, when I say study, we actually got to play futsal every day in the hall.
Wow.
Ours was very relaxed because I did a sports course and then you'd go straight to training and it was very professional, and I really liked the professional element to it. It was something I really enjoyed. I was very committed and I went to a showcase game. Some of my academy teammates also went to the same showcase, and because we were on the same team when we were linking up well, they sort of said, oh, we'll take all of you,
Wow.
We'll go to the same one. And I didn't end up taking it. I really wanted to study like sports. So I did sports science at university. The American scholarship for, I think it's the first year, it's more you do like maths and English and everything again. And I was just really wanting to study sports. And then I went to university here and it actually worked out well because I got to play with a lot of the Arsenal players. So because my college was near St Albans where Arsenal are, the players played the likes of Jordan Nobbs, Dan Carter, Caroline Weir, and then we had Faye White as our coach. Kelly Smith took one of our games. So for me,
Wow.
it was an incredible experience,
Yeah.
players like that. And they were so committed because they would even come to uni training as well as Arsenal training. And
Wow.
they just, trained so hard. So yeah, it was quite special. What was it like for you playing for Cardiff then?
We'd moved to where we live now, just outside of Bristol. I played for the local team for a year and we got promoted and they didn't take promotion. I was like, I was in my mid-20s. I was like, I'm not going to play forever. I want to go and push myself. And my friend that I played with just in a local team in South Wales was like, come and play for Cardiff. Every year she's like, come and play for Cardiff. There was a big age difference. So like I was mid-20s and a lot of the girls were sort of in their late teens. So I think it was quite hard to connect with them in a few ways, like on a personal level. But when it came to football, like they could just see passes that, when you play like a county or a regional level that people can't see. I think a lot of football is about a social life as well. And because I was a bit older, I was coming straight from work, going to training and coming home. And it was 45 minutes to an hour from where we live. So it was a big commitment playing for them. So I did 2 seasons. But playing with the girls that play for Wales was fantastic. And the really good players make time for you and show you how to improve. They're the best players. And I was playing against girls who were sort of 16, 17, and they were just rapid. I was just like, yeah, they're too quick for me now. I need to stop. But it was great. I really enjoyed it. When you go to a Wales game now, it feels even more special, like because you know how they play and you're willing them to do well. And I've seen the youngsters I played with sort of graduate into the Wales squad too, which has been really nice. But glad I stopped when I did because I think I would have got embarrassed by them after a season or 2 later because they were just so quick.
Definitely, the standard has just shot up, and it's funny what you were saying about getting things on film because nowadays they have everything filmed. And when I was playing, we didn't really get any of our games filmed. The one game we got filmed was a great game I played for sort of London Bees under 21s against Chelsea, and it was pouring with rain. So when we went to watch back the footage, all you can see is the cameraman just wiping the camera, and I was like, oh, this was a great game.
Yeah, gutted.
I'll look back on it, I'll be like, yeah, I scored a great free kick against this team. Oh, can we see it? I'm like, well, it wasn't filmed.
Yeah, exactly.
But also I completely agree with what you're saying. Like, you know, you do go to these games and you've played with these players and you're really spurring them on to do well. And it is just nice to see how far they've come and how far, in fact, women's football has come. But looking onto your next progression in your career, the broadcast side, did you always know that you wanted to do that? How did you get into it?
Yeah, I always knew. I don't know why, but I always knew that I wanted to be in the media as a reporter sort of thing. I initially thought maybe when I was growing up it would be news, and I was going to go to Cardiff School of Journalism. I sort of had it all mapped out because I'm a weirdo. So when I was 18, like I always knew I wanted to go to university. I didn't get into Cardiff. I went to Swansea, and, you know, university made me, I would say, like made me grow up so much. When I was sort of 16, I started going into my local radio station and my local paper. So I went into them. I went to my local paper like once a week. And then when I went to uni, I joined student radio, and I did hospital radio, and I did community radio. So all my spare time, when I was going into my final year, I spent that summer just doing loads of work experience. So I went to Sky, I went to Absolute Radio, I went to ITV. I was just trying to make all the contacts I could and get to know people and just sit there and learn, really. You know what work experience is like. It can either be amazing and really hands-on, or you're left sat in the corner not doing a lot. So every time I was on one of those placements, which I sought myself, they were nothing to do with my course. My course was English language and communication, and they didn't sort anything. Like, you just left your own devices. And then I started getting a bit of paid radio work where I'd been volunteering at a station in South Wales. And then when it came to graduating, I got a place at the School of Journalism that I'd sort of earmarked when I was, 12, 13. And a few days before I was due to start this course, which I was worried about because I'd moved to Cardiff for it, and I was working part-time at the radio station. I was working part-time doing travel news. But I was worried. I was like, this course is £10,000, so I'm going to have to get a loan. I've already got my student loan. And if I do get a job after, I'm just going to start my professional life in all this debt. As luck would have it, I was offered a job at that station, not quite full-time, but enough. So I used to present on Enemy Radio. I used to present on Nation Radio and another local one. And then I'd go and do travel news in the evening. So I'd do like a 12-hour day and then work weekends as well, just to make ends meet. And football was always there. I was still playing football. I loved football. I followed it so closely. I was doing this sports show and I was enjoying doing music radio, but I was like, I like this, but am I going to do this? Is this my career for the rest of my life? I'm not sure. And when I finished breakfast, I went to Capital South Wales. And it was while I was at Capital, the stuff with Sky really took off. So I turned from an ISDN reporter into someone that was in Vision most weeks, pretty much every week. It felt like such a big decision at the time to move from music radio, which I'd done for 5, 6, 7 years, and really been working towards since I was like 15, 16, to completely step out of music radio and fully commit to the sport. It was my husband really that was like, you've got to do it. If you don't do it, you will never know. And I was very lucky. I was being offered work from a few places. So I decided to stay freelance, and work across a few things. But as you know, it's so much more than that, but the hours, days, weeks, months and years I spent working for free on hospital and community radio. And then, since I've worked for Sky, I used to get up and do a press conference in Cardiff at, 6 a.m. And then I'd go and do the late shift down at Sky in London. I'd get home at 2:30 in the morning. They're crazy days. But you do it because you want to be seen, you want to work hard, and you embrace the opportunity, don't you?
That was a really interesting story. And in what we do, there's not really one route, I find.
No, it's not.
Has their own journey. So for me, when I was at college, actually, I did a bit of work experience with Sky. Got to go to a couple of games and see what goes on there. Someone in the tunnel, we were just having a conversation, and I said, I'm really passionate about growing the women's game. I'd love to do a lot of work in women's football. And he said, you should try and get in touch with a company that produces the women's football show. Maybe you can start as a runner or something. So I kept ringing the reception saying, is there someone I can speak to? And eventually I got through to someone. And then months later, I got to go in for a chat. And I just said, really want to be a runner here. I know you produce the women's football show, it'd be good to get involved. And eventually I got some shifts because it was sort of like there was a lot of runners on the system, and then you had to kind of try and get a couple of shifts. And I thought maybe once I've had a few shifts, maybe I'll get more. And that was how it worked. And went to a lot of networking places where I could meet the right people. And so I started off as a runner at Input Media, and then Premier League Productions, and then I managed to get a press pass for games, and started writing match reports, meeting the right people in the press room, and just all different things really. I don't think it was one thing. I think it was just a collection of me doing all different things and going out and just trying to do my own thing and sending it out there. Because for me, I feel like I could have carried on playing. I got to WSL2 with London Bees. I had to work harder than a lot of people in playing football because I had so much catching up to do. I really had to teach myself and get better and better. And, I wouldn't leave the park so I'd see a tree and I'd be like, right, I'm not leaving the park until I hit that tree.
I think you do have to have a bit of an obsessive trait to be like that. And then you have to decide, like you say, which way you go. And obviously WSL2 is an amazing standard. And it's like, oh, if you'd stayed longer, maybe could you have got paid? Could you have made more of it? But I personally still don't think unless, and this is nothing like on you, unless someone gets to WSL1, and even if they do get there, it's hard to make a living out of it.
That was my exact thought. I absolutely loved playing. And I think while I was at university, that was when I played for London Bees, and I had a student loan, so trained with the university every week, played games with them every week, trained with London Bees. I actually trained with university on a Monday, Bees on a Tuesday, university games on a Wednesday, Bees on a Thursday, Friday strength and conditioning, Saturday pre-match training session, and Sunday a game. So I was obsessed with it. It was special. I did go to West Ham after. But it was more that once I finished university, I wasn't making money from playing, and I was devoting every single day to it. And I always knew I wanted to work in football anyway. I was really passionate about promoting the women's game in particular, helping it grow using my experience of playing. I tried to do both, actually. I tried to play and work, but then when you're getting sent to games on a Sunday...
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, there's a crossover. That's one of the reasons that I stopped, because I used to present on Sky News on a Sunday morning. So I'd get down there for 4 a.m, and then you'd finish at sort of midday and you'd be racing back for a game. And you can't do both. It's nigh on impossible to do both at the moment, unless women start playing on a Saturday. And I don't think that will happen, because obviously the men play on a Saturday and you want to get as big an audience as you can. And there are men's games on Sundays, of course, but that's the logic behind it, isn't it?
How did you first get your opportunity for Soccer Saturday? How did that come about? Was it just a gradual thing?
I'd been sort of out and about reporting for a few years. But yeah, they took me on as an ISDN reporter and were happy with me. And then after sort of maybe just over a year of that, they were like, oh, do you want to go doing it in Vision? And I was like, oh God, I never got into radio to be on TV. I did that and they were happy, and it just snowballed. I was so lucky. And I absolutely love it. It's the best thing, and it's just something I absolutely love doing. I'm so lucky to do it, and hopefully it all continues.
For me, I wonder if it's the same for you. When you're doing radio, you kind of forget that anyone's listening. So I'm doing the co-commentary. I feel like I'm just chatting about the game and no one's listening, and I'm just having a chat with a mate, and it's interesting. I find radio is quite different. Is that how you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. Like when I started in radio, they taught me sort of just speak to one person. And likewise, like with Soccer Saturday, like I just feel like I'm talking to Jeff, when he throws to me, because he could say anything. There's just something special about it. It's just something intimate about it, and something that you can't replace, really. And you might be someone's background noise, or they might just hear you for a few seconds doing a match report, but it's like just you and them. And I think that's what makes radio so unique.
I look forward to hopefully getting back to it once things have settled down. But you touched on social media. Do you feel like you can really put your brand out there? Has it helped you in a positive way? Are there some negatives to it?
I'm definitely more careful on Twitter now, because if you veer off from football, which I don't do hardly anymore, people are just on you. And you're like, okay, so I've got those sort of followers, have I? Well, I'm glad they're leaving. I remember it was a Cardiff game and I said, oh, they got 3 wins from 3 and 3. I said, that makes no sense. And someone clipped it and put it on and was like, oh, this is why women shouldn't be on Soccer Saturday. I'm like, so in like, well, by that point, it was probably 5 years of reporting. I was like, that's what you've got. Okay, cool. It's just, it's pathetic. For me, the positives outweigh the negatives. Like Twitter, I use more for work now. Like I put a little bit of personal stuff on there, but not so much. Whereas my Instagram is way more open. I think that's what's great about Instagram. It's generally a kind of place. And if I get like messages on there that I don't like, I just block them. It's easy. So
it is interesting that sometimes it is, if a female's in football, it's like anything to try and like sabotage that. Oh, we'll put this clip up or we'll write this. There's just no need for it. And Instagram is great. A large proportion of my work has been digital content on Instagram, and I actually got to go to the Women's World Cup in France for 5 weeks making content on Instagram. And I never thought, years ago, I never have thought, oh, I'll be going to the World Cup, just doing my own thing, making videos, having fun with it and getting paid to do it. So for me, Instagram has been unbelievable. Yeah, who knew that Instagram would be so powerful?
It's a whole new audience. And I think it's something like, I'm sort of in that generation in between. And I get it, I do get it, but it's a whole new world. It's just like, wow, okay, this is this big. And since I've had our little boy Zach, I get offered loads and loads of stuff, which is great and it's lovely. But if I said yes to everything, like my Instagram would just be a massive advert, I think that's a whole new world of opportunity for a lot of people, and for a lot of people sort of coming through as well. I think it's a great way actually to get started and to get into it, because we don't have local radio anymore like we used to.
For me, I think it's just really important to stay yourself and be yourself. I think if you are getting offered to do stuff, make sure it fits in with you and your brand. I find, is it relatable? Are you passionate about selling it or using it yourself? And that there is a lot to think about with these things. So just quickly before we go, I wanted to ask you, was there any advice that you had from other people that really influenced you? And also what advice you would give to people wanting to get into this career?
I never feel qualified to give out advice, but what I would say is to anyone who's wanting to get into it right now is just try and do all the work experience you can. Like I do believe, like if you want it enough, like you said, you will go to all the games for free. You'll feel lucky to be there, and then you'll make the contacts and you'll work hard and your work will get better. But you'll be doing it all for free. Like you have to be realistic about it. You're not going to walk into Sky Sports News tomorrow and get a job if you haven't done anything before. It's not going to happen. Or if you do, like you are amazing. And the one bit of advice that really sticks with me is from Ellie Oldroyd. And she just said to me one time when I was trying to get through the door somewhere, she's like, just ask them, just say like, are there any opportunities here or not? Like if it's not, then fine, like, I'll go elsewhere. You don't do that to start with, but there's only so many times you can ask, before you become a pain, and you need to time it right. But if you've asked that person, I don't know, for ages, for months and months, and you're not really getting anything back, or they've been a bit wishy-washy, it's good to know where you stand after a while, I think. And it could go one of two ways, and if you're lucky, it will go the right way. But you have to say it in the right way, and you have to time it right. But yeah, just be polite and work hard, I guess.
There's a balance of who you ask, how you ask it. Some people can say it to the wrong people or in the wrong way and make people feel uncomfortable. And it's just about, just getting that gut feeling and knowing the right way to say it. And also putting in the work yourself. So for example, some people say, oh, what's his contact? But sometimes people need to work hard to get that contact through research or through going out and getting it, rather than always trying sort of the easy way. Keep learning, make sure that you're knowledgeable, do your research, try and get in contact with the right people the right way, and hopefully we'll see that happen.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you do it too soon, you won't be ready anyway, will you? So yeah, I agree with that completely.
And just to end on this, we can't go away without talking about your goal that was shown on Sky.
Oh yeah, I forgot about this. This was before Chester, wasn't it? A charity match. So Colin Murray asked me to go and play in a charity match. It was a Colin Murray All-Star. I was in it, wasn't 11 against the Chester 11, and they were trying to raise money to help the club, which was in dire straits. So Michael Owen was teeing us up to score goals, which is crazy. So yeah, Ian Rush, I think, probably buried his. And I was like, oh, I just need to get this on target. And all I wanted to do was just get in the back of the net. I'm like, this is live on Sky Sports with Jim White at 5:30 when their peak hour is. So I went for safety and it went in, which was fine. I wouldn't say I know Ian Rush well, but I've worked on him with a lot of things. We bought the Champions League trophy back on a private flight from Switzerland, but we did that. I've done a lot of Wales stuff with him. I've been at the Champions League launch with him in Cardiff, and there I am, playing football with him. It was bizarre, and that night was bizarre because I grew up watching Michael Owen and I was playing on the same team as him, although he didn't pass. But it was just surreal. It's just one of those things that happens. You're like, okay, that was weird, but I never really sit and think about things, and you've just reminded me of that, and I completely forgot about it. Maybe one day I'll just sit down and look back at these things and show Zach, and hopefully I'll think I'm a little bit of a cool mum. I can hope, can't I? He'll probably just find it weird that I'm in the TV to start with. So yeah, that definitely a highlight when I look back on it.
There you go. You finally have your footage that you didn't get.
Yes, I have my footage, exactly. I need to find it now. You just reminded me of it.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me.